Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to Jamie Photography. In this video, I'm going to do one of my classic day to nights. As you can see here, this is a shot of Rotterdam, taken recently on a very overcast day. Nothing too exciting at all, really. Much like many a photograph that we actually come to take, you know, we travel somewhere, we look forward to doing some photography, and when we get there, the weather doesn't want to play ball, and the sky can be quite overcast, and there's not a lot of contrast in the image, as you can see here. So but low contrast cloudy days are fantastic for day to nights, and I'm going to show you how we take this shot and we turn it into a day to night. So as you can see, it's 0.4 of a second, f8 ISO 100, so there wasn't a lot of light there. Was taken on a tripod, so we got the stability here. So it's a nice sharp image. I think we've got plenty of detail. Good opportunity to do a day to night. We've got this grey sky. So what I'm going to do first is my normal workflow, which is to get the perspective correct. I'm going to go down to the transform module. I'm going to click on guided, and then I'm going to find a couple of things that I want to be straight. So I certainly want this drain pipe over here to be straight, so I'm going to put a line on the drain pipe there. And then I want this church to also be straight, so I'm going to take on that brick line there. I'm just going to pull those two in. I think the horizontal is okay, so I'm quite happy with that. Now, it's because they're so vertical, it actually looks like they're leaning out slightly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move oops, just delete that one. I'm just going to move this over just a little bit, just to get a little bit of a lean inwards from both sides. That's it, and that sort of draws you into the image. This lantern is not straight anyway. And one of the fascinating things about going to Holland is wherever you go, there's always a bicycle chained to a street light everywhere. So it makes for good photography. So it's not the most attractive looking bike with its panniers, but it'll do. We can still do quite a nice shot with this. So I'm going to hit done on that. I'm just going to go up and do the crop as well. I just want to find a crop. Probably take the back end of this bicycle out here. Just move the crop over to the edge of that window there. I'm wondering whether to keep this area here or to actually remove that from the shot as well. Bring that over like this, and then bring the bottom up, just so we've got a nice leading line coming out of this corner here. Always like to see that sort of leading line. So that seems to work quite well. Happy with that. I'm going to go up to the basic module, and I'm just going to bring the highlights up slightly, not the normal thing you do, but what I want to do is create contrast between the sky and the buildings. So I'm bringing the highlights up slightly, I'm increasing the contrast slightly, so we've got a nice strong edge between the subject and the sky. And then what we're going to do is today we're going to do the sky replacement in this shot in Photoshop. I normally use Luminar, but in this case I'm going to use Photoshop because we've got a lot of very fine detail around this tree, and you can see that the wind was blowing, so the branches on their outer edges are slightly blurred because it's 0.4 of a second. So we'll want to lose a little bit of that as well when we get in there. So I'm going to right click on the image, go to edit in, and I'm going to edit in Adobe Photoshop 2022. So there we go, we're into Photoshop. So edit is where you'll find sky replacement, so I'll go to that, and then the sky replacement module will come up. So now it will throw the first sky in that it finds, and actually I do like that sky. That's the one it's found there already. I do, if you want to have more to choose from, there's a little down arrow here on the right of the sky, and then you can go through the skies that you've already preloaded. Now I have quite a lot of skies. Some I've purchased. Serge Ramelli has a fantastic set of skies that you can purchase, as does Clever Photographer, at quite reasonable prices actually. And then I've also taken a number of shots as well, which is in here. If one of the images you want's not in this pull down menu here, you can always click the positive, and that will take you to your file structure, and in your file structure you'll be able to to effectively look at what you've got. And here you can see I've got a number of different skies, groups of skies in folders. So for example, romantic skies, these are Serge Ramelli skies, they're very nice. And one of the good things with Mac is you can highlight an item, and then you just hit the space bar and you can have a look at it. Close the space bar, or get rid of it. If you open it with the space bar and use the up and down arrows, you can pan through the images quite easily. That's a nice one as well, actually. So magenta sky 10 is the one that we're probably going to use. So I'm going to click open, and it's going to load that in. There it is. I can select it, and it will place the sky in there. Now, you don't click OK at this point because you're still in the select sky module. What you need to do is click away from this module. So I click on this little grey box up here, this little space, just to get rid of that module. And then you get your sliders to adapt this sky to fit. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make it more colourful. So I'm going to add more temperature using the temperature slider. That works quite well. You can adjust the foreground lighting. So there's a foreground lighting slider here. I can change the slider there just to see what effect it will have. You have to be careful with halos. You have to keep an eye on these halos. If you go too far with some of these sliders, it will show. The edge lighting will deal with the lighting along the edge between the two contrasts. So if I select a higher one, you'll see there's more of a halo, and if I move it further to the right, there's less of a halo effect. So we go in there. Color adjustment, you can move the slider. It will affect the foreground colors based on the sky colors, so you can have it falling in line with those colors if you want to. So I'm actually going to go with a little bit of that. Now I'm going to reduce the brightness a little bit on that sky, and then the top two sliders deal with the edge. They deal with how the edge intersects between the sky and the subject. So the shift edge, you can move it away so that you have hardly anything near the edge, or you can bring it the opposite direction where it really pushes hard into the subject. As you can see here, it's pushing in. So we need to find a balance point where it's not bleeding in to these areas, but it is removing this halo effect. So I'm just going to keep going over to the right until I see. Now here I can see it starting to cut into the building there, so that's a bit too far. So I'm just going to come back a little bit. There we go. And then you have the fade edge, which allows you to try to fade that edge. If you go to extremes, you can have a very faded edge, and if you go the other way, you can have a very tight edge, and that seems to work quite well. Now, one of the things I do like about the sky replacement in Photoshop is that you do have a refine edge tool, which is very useful. So if you click on that and make yourself a reasonable size brush, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here so you can see. If we paint along the edge, it will effectively infill the sky in and around the objects. Now here this has been bleached out a little bit by the sky coming in, so we can take a smaller brush, press the optional Alt key down to turn this into a minus brush, and we can lift that sky away from this. So I can just take that through there and just lift that sky off of this clock tower a little bit, just so it's not there we go, it's not the sky's not sort of pushing too hard into the image. And you can see I can just take a little bit of that sky out there. That works very, very well. And I might just want to take a really small brush and just tidy up with the optional Alt key held down, just tidy up this this thing here. We've got a little star in the sky, but it acts as a refine tool, so you do actually get some refinement along the edges, which works very, very well. So it's quite a nice tool to use. So I'm just going to zoom out using the optional Alt key and wheeling my mouse, holding down the space bar so I can move across. I'm just going to come over to the side of this building here. I'm just going to zoom in again using the optional Alt key. when you hold down the Option Alt key to zoom, you hold it down and you wheelie your mouse, that zooms. If you hold it down and use the left click on your mouse, not the wheelie, it will do the action. So in this case, I'm holding the Option Alt key down to remove the sky from the building here. You can see that. So I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger, and I'm just going to click at the top, hold down the Shift key while still holding down the Alt key to keep, and then I can draw a straight line with that brush. Coming in here, smaller brush, holding down the Option Alt key, just going to take away the sky from the edge. There you go. Just going to have a look around the edge, making sure it's okay. Same here, still holding down the Option Alt key. Just going to paint this part of the roof here, so that the sky is not bleeding over the actual building itself. So I'm just going to take that out. So that looks pretty good. I'm just going to go down here, make sure we're okay through here. We do look okay there, maybe a little bit there to come out, just around there. And looking through here, maybe along that roof line there. So holding down the Option or Alt key, clicking, holding down the Shift key at the same time, so you can draw a straight line across. That looks pretty good. I probably just want to paint the sky in, so I'm not now holding down the Option key. I am just using it as the infill mask, just to try to hide a little bit of that semi-halo that we've got there. A little bit bigger brush. There we go. And you take away that halo effect. You can see it there as well. There we go. Very good. So I'm going to zoom back out. So I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to maybe make it a little bit darker. That's good. And I'm going to accept that. Now you can choose, when you accept it, new layers or duplicate layer. Or duplicate layer will just make a second layer with the sky inputted. New layers will break the sky out into all the separate layers, and so you can deal with things more if you feel you want to later. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use duplicate. I've just noticed whilst I'm here, I'm just going to run along that edge there. Just fill the sky in there. That's it. Good. So I'm going to click OK, and as you can see, it drops in a background copy. So you have the original, and then you have with the sky. I don't need the original anymore, so I'm going to right click on that and delete the layer. So I've just got the single layer. Now I'm just going to unlock that layer. Whilst I'm here, I'm just going to have a little bit of a tidy up. There's a few things here, a little bit of mess, so I'm going to select the spot healing brush. I'm going to make the brush a little bit bigger. We're going to zoom in using the Option or Alt key. Now you could be here for ages. There's a lot of chewing gum on this road, so you could, if you wanted to, start taking out all the chewing gum and tidying it up, making it look a little bit nicer. Just literally clicking as you go. The spot healing tool does work extremely well, and you can work very, very quickly to just remove any mess. So I'm just going to take out the worst of it. The other thing you tend to find as well, and it's always things people put in their mouths, isn't it? Chewing gum and cigarette butts tend to be a problem. So you can literally just go around and take the worst out. Make sure there's nothing too drastic. It's good for removing litter, any garbage that people have left around, but it's just a way of taking out any bright spots. There's a bit over there, look. So I'm just going to take that out. And but it's such an incredible tool, because you can move so quickly from one thing to another, and it doesn't mess about. It just uses the content aware fill, and it just literally looks at the scene as you're taking the as you're using the spot tool, and it just fills in around. I think we're we're pretty good. So I'm just, when I'm moving the picture around, I'm holding down the space bar so I can move it, and then I'm literally just, there's a bit of rubbish down there. Now there's also some people in this shot, so, and they're blurred because they were walking, so I think we'll take them out. So that's going to be a nice little shot to do. And there's a sort of leg there, somebody that was in the shot but was blurred. So I'm just gonna take his foot out using the spot healing tool, and you can't really see them then. And I'm going to go down, do these people. So I can try the spot healing tool, literally just go around them and try to take them out using that, see what happens. Wow, it's pretty good. We will need to do just a little bit of tidying up on that. Same with this person here. I'm going to try and just use the spot healing tool just to remove them. That one's not so good, so I'm going to come out of that one. Now to tidy up this area, I'm going to change to the stamp tool, okay, the clone stamp tool, and I'm going to take a clone from here and draw it downwards. So I'm going to hold down the option key to get the stamp, to take the stamp. So I'm going to click there, and now I've got that stamp effectively. If I had a bigger brush, you could see that I've got that piece of the wall covered there, and I'm literally going to start painting. Now when I move the stamp tool to the right, you'll see the cross moves, and that means what it's painting is on the cross, and it's painting it into the circle. So I could go up to the edge there, come down to there, and I could literally, you see it caught the edge of that there. So I can take another stamp from in here, and I can literally just paint that out. We can take the curb here, and we can just paint that curb down, and then we can try to figure out what we're going to do here. Maybe extend this wall just a bit further so it covers that little bit of mess there. It looks like this is an intersect here, and then we can just maybe take some clones and move that as though it sort of fades into that area there. And bear in mind how zoomed in we are, people are not going to notice that. I'm just going to straighten that bit up there, and I'm just going to straighten that bit up there. So it looks like the wall runs round. With this chap, a little bit more difficult, because we're going to have to take a stamp from sort of here and then try to paint them in. I'm just going to take a stamp from that point there and just bring that little bit of curb across, and then paint down into the edge of that plant there. Just going to take the edge of that road and just bring it round there. So what you're seeing is effectively we're just taking little bits and adding them into this edge of that plant. So let's take that road further over. I think that takes us to the edge of the building there. It doesn't look too bad. We'll just do this bit here. So we've got a bit of road there. Let's take that a little bit out. So we've just got to think about this area here. There's a bicycle there. I'm probably going to want to lose that bicycle and maybe paste in a little bit more from over here. So I'm just going to take that a little bit there and extend that across. And there we go. And I'm just going to paint that bicycle out because we don't have the whole bicycle there. And that's it. So I'm just working all the time, taking a new clone, working my way across just to try to get rid of those distracting little bits. So now that's too much of a pattern. So what we can do is we can go to the healing tool and just take a strike across there. Now that didn't work too well, it copied from above, but I can just take some little, there we go, that doesn't look too bad, just to break the pattern up so it's more random in that area. I think that works quite well. This street light disappears. We just need to put that street light in. So what we can do is we can either take this street light over here, or we can extend this one down. So I'm going to take this one over here. I'm just going to make my brush small, take the Option key to take a stamp. We need to be in the clone tool to do that, apologies. Make the brush small, take a stamp from there, apply it to there, and we can just draw that down. As you can see, just into that area. Now I will want to just draw the last bit in there, so I'm just going to take another stamp from there and just draw that into place there. There we go. So you've got yourself a street light. So if I zoom back out again, and we're talking about very small details there at the back of the image, you know, you really have to come in to see if there's you know, if that was not real or not, and you're never going to look that closely at that. That looks from this sort of distance. From here it looks fine, you know, it looks pretty good. So once you go back out to full image, it's okay. So had a tidy up there. I'm happy with that shot. Might just take out these lines that run down onto the boats. So we'll again spot healing tool. We'll take a small brush. We'll click there, hold down the Shift key, and click again to get rid of that. And then click again, holding down the Shift key, so you get a straight line. I'm going to take this flag line off of the church as well, same way. There we go. I'm going to leave those ones in because they're okay. These do need to be removed. I'm also just going to remove the top of that building that's looking over there. Just get rid of that. Almost there. Using the spot healing tool. So with this, I'm going to click again, and I'm literally going to go to the bottom of it, click again, and hope that it can deal with that through there. It didn't do very well, so I'm going to Control or Command Z to undo. I'm going to click there this time and go to the edge of the brickwork, and then from there to there, just to take them out as we come through. So you can go each time just up to the edge of the contours that are in there. So same there, just going to go down to there. Yeah, let's take that little bit of the window out. It looks okay. So I think we're do that one as well. I think we're in a good position. I'm quite happy with that. It's not quite right there, so let's just take the stamp tool and let's take the edge of this window. So we're going to make a brush a little bit bigger. We're going to hold down the Option key and take a stamp from the corner of that window. I'm then going to draw that down. I'm not clicking anything at the moment, I'm just finding the bottom there, and then I'm just going to draw that up like such. So we can just paint that window into there. So and then I can take the edge of this window, so using the Option key, click at the bottom there, take that little edge there and just paint the edge of that window in there. So that's all tidied up. Good. Okay, I think we can go back into Lightroom. So I'm going to File, Close and Save, and then that will save the image and send it back into Lightroom. There we go. So let's just quickly do the spot healing tool in here using the visualize spots function. This is this little tick down here, and just make sure that there's no dust in the sky that might interfere. So I'm just gonna I don't know why it went all over there with that, so just make sure there's nothing there. That looks okay to me. Yeah, happy with that. So now we can get to the day to night. So where we always start off is we always bring down the exposure. So in this case I'm coming down about 1.5 stops roughly there, and I'm going to darken the sky. So I'm going to open up the mask. So I'm going to take a linear gradient and I'm going to bring it in from the left hand side, and I'm just going to darken that sky down just a bit more over there, but I don't want to darken down the buildings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the sky, right? subtract the sky, which sort of doesn't make any sense because it's the sky that we want to darken, not the buildings. But then in the select sky mask module, you'll see that there is an invert box. If I tick that, it will subtract the sky, but on the invert, so the buildings don't get too dark. So that actually worked quite well. So I'm quite happy with that. I'd probably just want to take that little bit of a start of a halo there. So what I want to do is I want to add a brush to this mask that I've got going here, and I just want to just darken that down, not like that. Control Z with more of a feather applied. So let me just make this a bit bigger. Where's my brush? So add a brush and take the feather to 100 and the flow down to about 30, and then just picking up on that darker area there. Don't want to see a halo there. Just striking that in, that's good. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to relight the scene, and we're going to relight the scene using my favorite tool of all, which of course is the creator mask, is the radial gradient. So you've probably seen me do this a few times, but I'm going to show you again how we light the lanterns. We're going to take a radial filter that's bigger than the lantern. There we go, put it in the center. We're going to turn the exposure up to 100. Okay, we're going to zoom in so you can see what we're doing with this lamp. And what we're going to do is going to remove the element of the radial gradient that we don't want. So we will subtract from this mask a brush. The flow will be at 100 and the feather will be at 0. And we're literally, I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger using the square brackets next to the return key. I'm just going to click once against the edge of this, move to, so I'm in line, hold down the shift key and click again. All right. So I'm just going to just do that again, just to make sure we've got in there. I'm going to do the same here. I want to cut in, so click, shift, click, and then click, shift, click. Okay, so just to freehand that a little bit there. So what you're seeing I'm doing is I'm removing the radial gradient using the subtract brush. So I'm going to make my brush bigger. You can use the square keys, the square bracket keys next to the return key, or you can wheelie your mouse, nice and easy. And I'm just going to make a bigger brush there, and make sure you don't go over there, just to take the rest of that out. If I do accidentally go over, then just Command or Control Z to undo the one there. So I'm just going to come around the bottom there, come up and around this side. Okay, so I can hover over the mask to see what I have and haven't done. In this case, I look to have kept the auto mask button on, because you can see that some of the branches on the top of the light have not been dealt with. So I'm going to turn off the auto mask and just run around there again, making sure I don't go over the light fitting itself. There we go, and I'll hover over the mask again, and you can see I've effectively illuminated the mask. There we go, just a little bit there as well. So that's good. So the light, I haven't, as you notice, I haven't taken the light away underneath there, because the light would in fact light up into that area. So you might think, well, that's not really bright enough. Well, what we'll do, because it's at 100 on exposure, what we need to do is highlight the radial filter, right click and duplicate the mask. Don't duplicate just the radial gradient. You want to duplicate the mask because of all the masking that you've done. And now you can see the second one has gone on top. So now effectively we have 8 stops of brightness added, not just 4. But of course the top one allows us to go from 4 to 8, right? So we can now use that one to get a sort of brightness that we want. So I'm going to go about here, and I'm going to right click again. Let me just select that radial gradient. I'm right going to again duplicate that mask again, and this top one I'm going to make small so it mimics the light bulb inside the light fitting, right? So so we've got now effectively 3 masks: the bottom mask, the middle mask and the top mask, which is the light bulb itself. I'm going to go back to the middle one and I'm going to make it a little bit brighter. There we go. The top of the light fitting here, you can actually see the actual low energy lamp in there. That needs to be a little bit brighter. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a brush, and we're going to bring the feather up and the flow down, make a smaller brush, and we're just going to lighten that area at the top there up a little bit more. I can increase the flow. There we go. That's good. Ooh. So if I now zoom back out, you can see this lamp is on and it's got quite a natural effect. I might even move that, go back into the mask, I might even move the lamp up a little bit by selecting it and moving it up and making it brighter. So it looks like it's actually, even make it slightly smaller. Put it more towards the top. There you go. Good. So I'm happy with that lantern. I'm going to now place some light underneath this lantern. So I'm going to go to the masks, another radial gradient. This time I'm going to pull out quite a large one because this lamp would have quite an impact. Now the center of the radial gradient needs to be at the bottom of the lamp, okay? So it needs to be about here. And I'm actually going to turn that slightly because the lamp's leaning and the light needs to come over at the same similar sort of angle. And I'm going to bring up the brightness, right? And I'm actually going to move that down a little bit more so the center's there. I'm going to add a bit of yellow to it, just a little bit, not too much, and a little bit of magenta to take the green tinge away. I think I will do the same with the main one up here as well. I think I will also add a little bit of yellow to that, and a little bit of magenta, just to bring that alive. So that's quite a nice effect. I don't really need to do very much more there. I might, in that top mask, might add a brush with a lot of feather, low flow, and just light the top of the bike up a little bit more, just to show there's some light coming onto the top of the bike. So that's pretty good. So I'm now going to do the same thing with the light behind. So I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lights there. There's some lights on the other side as well. There's one there, one there, one there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these lights now. I'm going to speed the video up so you can see the same thing that I've just done to this light here. So okay, away we go. Okay, so I think I got all the light fittings there. So I'm just going to click done, see that they're all in. They are. So we just need to add a little bit of light around on the roadway and the pathways on the buildings, just to pick up from what those street lights would be doing. So again, I'm going to go into masks, create a radial gradient. I'm just going to pull out some little masks to go with each light. So I'm just going to bring that up there, as you can see, just add a little bit of light to the road there. I'm going to subtract a brush with 100% flow, a little bit of feather. I'm just going to take out this side of the wall so that the light is literally just lighting the other side of that wall. I'm going to also, I think this time I'm just going to go to add on that mask and add a brush with a lot of feather, much lower flow, and I can just paint in some light for each of these fittings as well, just where it would come out on the road, just in there. So a little bit behind this fitting over here on the wall, so I'm just going to pop a little bit over there just to add a little bit of orange to it. Same over here. So yeah, so that's looking pretty good with that. So now I think we need to light this area up a little bit over here. It's quite dark here, so I'm just going to create a new radial gradient, and I'm going to bring it in from this side, almost as though there's a light on this side as well. Just give it a little bit of an angle, bring up the brightness there, a little bit of colour. That just sort of picks this corner up a little bit. I'm also going to pop one over the front of this church and this area over here. Just make it run parallel with that, as though the church is being lit from below. I think what we'll do is we'll take it down from below there actually, and we'll light the church up as though that there is a floodlight coming up from the bottom there. So if I just add some colour to that, a little bit of tune that in. Now I'm going to subtract a brush with no feather, 100% flow, and I'm just going to run along the top of that wall there, click, shift, click to remove that from there. Just remove the rest of that. So it looks like there's a light coming up, lighting the front of that church. I'm actually going to duplicate that mask, and I'm going to make the one smaller. Yep, and not quite so bright. So it looks like there's a floodlight lighting the front of that church. I'm going to add a bit of clarity, always makes it pop a little bit, and a little bit of contrast over there. Yep, I'm going to go back to the mask before, this wider one. That's the one. Just going to move that one out of the way a second, just go down to that bottom one there. Just going to spread that out a bit more, and I'm going to pop that back in there. So it looks like the church is being illuminated over there. You've got these lights here as well, so I'm just going to grab another radial gradient, just bring it into the side of this building here from the outside, and just bring that up as well with a little bit of light there, maybe a bit further up. Add some clarity, add some colour, not too much, a little bit of magenta in there, that works well. Just going to subtract from that mask the brush along the top here, just to take that down. So that's looking pretty good. And so the last bit I'm going to do here is I'm going to light these windows up on this side. So I'm going to zoom in, move the image over, holding down the space bar, and we're going to put a radial gradient in this room here. So I'm just going to pull that over that window. I'm going to boost it right up, a little bit of magenta in there to balance that color. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract a brush, which will be low feather, 100% flow, and I'm just going to go around this window, literally removing the radial gradient. So just going to come over to the end of that wall there and come up, and then that light would come through onto the front of this, but then it wouldn't be out here. So I'm just going to just take that out as well, and it wouldn't be on this bench either. It wouldn't light through onto this bench. So I'm just going to take that away from that bench as well. The rooms are quite well lit. I'm going to take this out over this side as well. Might as well take all of that out because we'll do those rooms separately. So, and then of course up here, none of this would be illuminated from that room light. I'm just going to take that out around the bottom there like that. So we've got the light. They're just going to hover over that mask and see where the light is. There we go. It should be just in that area. I don't want it along the front of that, along the front of the umbrella. Good. So what I now need to do is raise the feather up and lower the flow so I can blend these edges, just to create a softness on that edge. Otherwise it won't look realistic. Same here. Just want to just soften those edges there. So we've got quite a bit of light coming from inside. I'm going to do the same with the other window. We're going to stick a radial gradient where the light is. Bring that up. Same thing. Nice and bright. Subtract a brush. This time the brush needs to be flow 100 low feather. And I'm just going to go in there and remove the light that's coming in to these windows here. So I'm just going to go along there. That's not going to need any light. That's good. I'm not going to do these windows. I've already done these windows, so we're going to take that out. There we go. Just going to take a small line along the front of that pillar there, because it would be in shadow. And like we did before, we're going to go back into the brush, bring the feather up and the flow down, and we're just going to build up an edge, gradually going backwards and forwards just to soften that edge off, as though, because light doesn't have really hard edges unless you're very close to the light source. So just want to make sure that's okay there. That's looking all right. Oops. And I want to do the same over here. Just blend that edge in nice and gently. So now the room's illuminated as well. So just check that we need to get rid of a bit more there with the brush. So I'm going to go back to flow 100, big brush, and just take away anything else that's remaining. Yep, there we go. Gotcha, just the windows. That's what we were after. So click done. Let's come back out. Yeah, I think we just need to do a little bit with this front piece here. Apologies. And we're going to probably just drop in another radial gradient to the same angle as the building, bringing that in from the side there. I'm going to bring the light up on the building there, colour it a little bit with plenty of magenta there just to balance that off, pop in some clarity and some contrast, and subtract the sky. We don't need the sky in this shot, so subtract the sky, which is done. And then I think the very last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to boost this sky a little bit. So I'm just going to take another radial gradient in the sky over here. Nice big radial gradient in there. And I'm going to boost the colour, boost the exposure a little bit, add some contrast, handful of clarity. Love the way the clouds light up. I need to subtract the area that's not the sky. So remember, we can subtract the sky and its inverse. Yeah. So that's got that there. And then I'm just going to take a brush. I'm going to have lots of feather, quite low flow. Going to have lots of colour and a little bit of brightness. And I'm just going to pick up these clouds a little bit more, dodging and burning. They're just dodging those clouds in there, just to burn them a little bit more, make them brighter. And then maybe even just put some brightness back into this cloud up here a little bit, just to see where it takes us. I like that. And then I am just going to take one last radial gradient on the clock tower over here and just boost it as though there's a bit of light, just a little bit of light on the clock tower, not too much. And then subtract the sky, and I'm also going to subtract a brush, feather 0, flow 100%, and just cut that edge in finer. There we go. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm just going to have a little play with these shadows and highlights just a little bit, just to boost it just a little bit more, just a little bit more. Should I add some clarity? Maybe just a little bit, tiny bit of texture, add some vibrance to the shot, a bit more magenta just to balance those greens out. And I think we might have what we want. So I think we're finished with that. So I hope you enjoyed that. Getting from this grey sky, low contrast shot to this, which is our day to night, and something I quite enjoy doing this, I must admit. So if you enjoyed it as well, then I'd really appreciate a like. Feel free to comment below. I'm always read your comments. I love to hear what you have to say, and the questions that you ask can be very interesting, so feel free to do that. And I'd really appreciate subscribing and try build my channel. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for now. Bye bye.